Right, Jonesy, Brentford at home. Did you go, first of all? You
Unfortunately, I did.
did.
Yeah.
You did go. You did go. Well, I made the fatal error. I'm going to be quite brutally honest. The train strikes were on, obviously. Dad said about going. And I was like, yeah. I was obviously back in Essex with my family. And I was like, oh, Dad, you know what? I haven't really seen much of you. It's still a bit of food about. I wouldn't mind just hanging out here. And we'll just sort of just spend a bit more time before I have to go back to London. And I don't see as much of you and Mum and the dog and all that. I wouldn't mind just having sort of one last day on the sofa, and we'll watch the footy on telly. So that's what we did, only to discover approximately 20 minutes before the game that it was on neither Sky, BT, or Amazon. And the fact the kickoff had just been moved for overseas audiences. So, yeah, a little bit of an oversight on my part there. But frankly, obviously, I've watched the game back. Jonesy, you can lead us out on this one, to be honest, because I don't know. I think the talk now is obviously we'll talk about the game. So tell us about the game in particular. The sense seemed to be that West Ham were the better team in the first half, bar Brentford's couple of goals. Moyes came out afterwards and said we played well, but how many times have we heard that from him off the back of a defeat? I'm inclined to agree with you. Nothing looks like it's changed really. It looks like some of the players are a bit peeved off. Reports suggesting Declan Rice and a couple of other players didn't shake his hand on the way off afterwards. Declan Rice kind of suggesting in his post-match interview after Arsenal, there seemed to be a little bit of discontent there as well, saying you can't just sit back and defend against these teams because sometimes they're going to score. I don't know. It's all going wrong, but I say the bigger picture is obviously about Moyes in general, but just talk us through the game first of all before we get on to what it means on a more macro scale.
Well, I've been struggling with it a little bit because when the lineup was announced, there was genuine relief because he finally dropped Soucek.
Yeah,
He played Paqueta alongside Rice.
yeah.
Skamaka was starting, and you just felt finally we're going to see Paqueta playing his proper position. Hopefully that fixes the final third problems. And for the first 20 minutes, it looked like it was beginning to, it looked like really promising. We thought, here we
Yeah.
go. Like Paqueta was just far more effective in that position than Soucek has ever been. There was a little bit concerned about the lack of movement from Skamaka, but Bowen was busy. Benrahma was really, really good, and we just thought, yeah. And then Brentford score, and then after that, they just lost. It was as if the moment Brentford scored against the run of play, the players just went, "Oh well, that's it then. That's it, game over." Over the last 2 years, whenever we've gone 1-0 down, there was always a feeling that doesn't matter. We'll still get in it. We'll still get back into
Yeah,
the game.
yeah, definitely.
Doesn't matter. And how many times did we do it? We go 1-0 down and we'd still end up winning a game, or we'd still get a point, even against some of the bigger clubs.
Yeah.
And now you go 1-0 down, and to be fair, even when you go 1-0 up, and it's like, well,
Yeah. It
nothing's
doesn't actually
guaranteed
matter who
anymore.
scores first, does it?
Yeah,
No.
it's like, and you could visibly see it. 1-0 down, and Declan Rice is really he's getting the ball and he's running back to the centre spot and he's throwing his arms up in the air and trying to G the players up. But you could tell the body language of most of those players out there at 1-0 was like, oh, well, that's that then. That's that. That's that. And then, yeah, for the rest of the first half, we were doing all right. And then it goes 2-0, and you could just see their shoulders slump a little bit further. But the play in the final third was the biggest worry. I thought Skamaka was pointless. May as well have just not been on the pitch. To be fair, I don't even remember him touching the ball.
Is it him, is it him, mate, or is it
this is the thing,
the
mate.
sluggish build up? Is it not knowing what the other players are going to do? I'm not. I'm genuinely asking. Rather, that was a genuine, rather than a leading question.
Because we've said before that you play Paqueta in that number 8 role, and it should bring Skamaka into play a little bit more. And I thought Paqueta, the job that Paqueta did was good, but I just didn't see Skamaka really making many moves for him. Bowen and Benrahma were. I thought Benrahma more than any of the three. But it just felt like, I don't know, there was just every time we got into the final third, the final ball was either terrible or there was no real movement, or I think we had one or two shots on goal in the first half, and they were half-hearted chances. Nothing. There wasn't a single moment throughout the whole game really where you thought, "Yeah, we're going to score it."
Oh,
Yeah, we're going to score it, or that was close.
Mm.
So after all that, the relief and the excitement that finally you'd made the change that we'd been calling for months. And in the end, it just kind of 20 minutes into the game and it was all over, really. Like, the moment that first goal went in, you just knew, oh, well, that's that then. Like, the players, you could tell from the players, the body language. And the second half, I mean, I barely remember much of the second half because it was just so rubbish. Just nothing in it. They probably could have had one or two more, Brentford. But yeah, we just didn't really fight. Didn't fight much for it. There just didn't seem to be much urgency. And when that's happening at home against a team like Brentford, let's have it right, we should be beating Brentford. Like, we should be. If you look at the squad,
and I sort of agree, mate. Yeah, I know they're good, aren't they? They're playing well.
They're a good side. They're a good side. You know, they play good football, but like, we should be beating
beat them
Brentford
last season either, could we?
Couldn't beat them last season, and it's like, well, there's a major issue here, and when you finally play your record signing in his correct position where he plays for Brazil, and it still isn't working, it still looks rubbish and boring, then there's a massive problem there for me. Right. And that's why I'm now, we've got to make a change.
But mate, and you know what? And I agree, right? But the problem is, I think, and I do think, as with a lot of these things, sort of Moyes sort of makes a rod for his own back, doesn't he? To an extent where he's reasonably stubborn, and like you mentioned that Paqueta thing there, I think the fact that all right, he plays there for Brazil, yeah, but he's got different players around him and in front of him, quite frankly. Do you know what I mean? It was probably a bit easier when you've got like Richarlison, Vinicius Junior, and Neymar playing ahead of you. No, come on, just hang on, just bear with me here for a minute, right? So there is a bit of that. But what I also think as well is Paqueta's played there for Brazil. He played there for Lyon. And we bring him in and go, oh, yeah, I will whack him in at number 10 because we want to keep Tomas Soucek in midfield. Do you know what I mean? And it just feels like this isn't like when we brought Mascherano in and Hayden Mullins kept him out of the team because, oh, no, I know people like to laugh at that, but because, frankly, Hayden Mullins was playing out of his skin and an absolute one of the best central midfield partnerships I've ever seen, him and Rio Coca, particularly that season on the way to the cup final, which is why we missed him so much when he got sent off at Liverpool in the days leading up to the final. This isn't like that. This isn't like, oh, yeah, well, you know, it's not like Rice is keeping him out of the team. And you think, oh, well, it's difficult to put him in ahead of Rice because Rice is playing really well. It's like, oh, we've got this Brazil's centre midfield player. As in he starts for Brazil, one of the greatest teams on the planet. Yeah, he starts for them. Oh, right, flipping heck. Okay, well, where should he play then? Oh, we can't play in front of Declan Rice because he's world class, holding midfield player. Yeah, you're right. He plays for England as well. Yeah, he's really good. Who's next? Oh, Soucek. Is he the tall one we paid 15 million quid for that we've got our money's worth for 2 seasons ago or whatever, who hasn't had a good game for at least 6 months? Yeah. Oh, right. So we'll just swap him in with him, shall we? No. We'll play him at number 10 out of position. But we got loads of players at number 10 in that attacking 3 in midfield. Yeah, no. We'll play him up there instead. What? Why? Sorry, why are we doing that? Oh, well, Soucek wins a few headers, doesn't he? Well, he hasn't won one in the opposition's box for God knows how long. I know he scored against Tottenham, didn't he, to be fair, and that was a good goal. But outside of that, he has not been the attacking threat that he provided. That first season, he scored like more than 10 goals in all competitions, I think. Not a patch on that Tomas Soucek. It's just baffling. But then, and that's what I mean. I think Moyes sort of makes a rod for his own back because he's doing it now when the pressure's on and you put more pressure on it. And then, sure enough, you've said it and loads of fans on Twitter are saying it. They're going, you finally put Paqueta there in his actual position. And it doesn't work out, so a change needs to be made. And I sort of looking at it and going, well, you can't expect it to, all right, he's allowed one bad game or one off game. You can't expect him to gel straight away because although he's used to playing that position, there's still different players around him, blah, blah, blah. But so do you put the pressure on himself by leaving it this long. No one would have moaned if he dropped Soucek. No one would have moaned. No fans would have moaned if he dropped Tomas Soucek. Like months ago, weeks ago, when we brought Paqueta in and played him there then. And we had the players to play number 10. I'm not being funny. People moan about Lanzini, and all right, he's not the player he once was, but he still was really good last season. And you can't tell me that fans wouldn't go, oh no, yeah, Rice and Paqueta in the middle, and then have Lanzini starting every week over Soucek. I appreciate it's not ideal, and it's perhaps not as, fans want multi-million pound signings. But you can't tell me that fans would have been disgruntled playing Lanzini instead of Soucek every week, if that's what you have to do. And then Fornals, Benrahma, Bowen, whichever combo of those players behind Scamacca. I do think Moyes has been unlucky with injuries, mate, to be honest. Now for Gued, obviously a centre-back, come in injured straight away. Maxwell Cornet has barely played. No, I'm not blaming it entirely on this, mate. I'm just saying a bit.
I was going to say, Gued, like, why on earth they let him go to the World Cup, I do not know.
Mate, you got to do that.
He's injured again at the World Cup. It's like, for crying out loud.
But that's part of it. You can't not let your players go to World Cup, can you? That would have destroyed his morale and get you off to a bad start, isn't it? It's kind of a given that all the players want to play for their country. So I'm not. But either way, right? So some of the big players haven't played as much, perhaps, as he would have liked. And I don't know. I do feel that it's easy to look back now. We were saying give him time. But you do sort of feel like some of these issues are Moyes' own doing, where he's just let situations stagnate a bit. And honestly, mate, and the Declan Rice thing, I'll still stick to that, saying that this idea of letting him be this marauding midfield player, which I think has been a huge part of Soucek's confidence being shattered in the first place. And then once that happens to players, there often isn't any coming back, is there? And I appreciate it must have been a difficult situation because if Declan Rice, one of the best midfielders in the world, is going, right, I'll stay for another 12 months, but you have to let me develop my attacking play. It's a difficult situation, isn't it? Because you go, well, no, you'd be a holding midfield player. Well, then he goes, all right, well, when I move on, I'm going to be a holding midfield player there. So if you're going to make me do that, I'll go down the road and I'll earn 3 times the money I'm on to do the same job for a team who can win me a trophy perhaps this year. So if you're not going to let me do that, don't worry. So I appreciate it's a difficult position to put yourself in. But I also think there's a stage where you go, right, well, look, Declan, this isn't working out. It's not for the good of the team. You're going to have to be that disciplined holding midfield player again. You're the captain. We've made you captain. And part of your responsibilities for that is you do what's best for the team. You're obviously developing. You're going to be a great player. You're going to move on whenever you're going to move on and get big wages. But West Ham are struggling at the moment. You're West Ham's captain. You've been here for however many years. So you've got to do what's best for the team. That hasn't happened. That's part of the Soucek situation. I just think, look, I love Moyes as much as anyone. I think I had a soft spot. Me and you probably had a soft spot, maybe a blind spot for some of the things he was doing. Because you just hoped as much as if not more than had faith it would come good. But it hasn't. And I don't know. What do you think? If we beat Leeds, Jonesy, I mean, I sort of just think we're in danger now. We need to make a change now because February, we're not going to win a game in February. We've got some awful fixtures in February. January, some of our games are winnable. I think if you lose to Leeds, you make the change.
Yeah, I think the next 3 games are, was it Leeds, Everton and Wolves? I mean, you've got to get 9 points out of those, unfortunately. That's just the situation we're in. And thankfully, our record at Ellen Road over the last couple of years since they got promoted again has been pretty good. But Everton and Wolves just got a new manager. They're looking all right now. So that's not going to be easy. Everton are Everton, so you just never know what's going to happen against them. So yeah, you're right. Like if we don't get anything on Wednesday at Ellen Road, then like it has to be Rapid. But the problem is, you sack him then. You've got an FA Cup tie against Brentford. Like,
Yeah, but
scrap
that
that.
doesn't
Don't
matter,
care.
mate. Yeah,
Whatever.
who cares?
Like,
Yeah.
whatever. Don't care about that this year. And then you've got a week, 10 days to get someone in through the door, meet the squad, and then you've got two massive, massive games. Which is why I'm a little bit frustrated that, if you're going to make the change, you should have made it in the World Cup, really.
No, come on, whatever.
I know
What
we
you
were
were
saying.
saying that
I know we
no.
were saying, but you look at it in hindsight and go, actually, no, we've left this too late.
Nah, come on, you can't. There's listeners to this podcast thinking you sound ridiculous because you were saying the same as me.
That's what I'm saying. I know I was saying
Cup.
that. I know I was saying that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Stick with him.
Yeah, you can't just then lose 2 games and go, oh well. Like, we literally said you've got to leave it till after the World Cup, but it's important to come off the back of it with some changes being made.
Yeah,
but they haven't. So now we make a change,
and we haven't. Yeah, but in hindsight, I'm saying we probably should have made that change. But regardless of all that, the fact is that we've got to win our next 3 games in the league. Any drop points is going to cost us because they're against 3 teams that are around us at the bottom half of the table. And quite frankly, I don't see where those wins are coming from. I genuinely don't see it. I don't see us scoring any goals. Unless we get a penalty against the run of play like we did at the Emirates. I genuinely don't see it. I mean, he's got to stick with the system that he played against Brentford. You've got to keep Paqueta and Rice in that midfield. I do believe, and not many people have said this, I do believe we're missing Fornals' energy a little bit.
Mate, Pablo Fornals is so underrated, yeah.
Like, the guy will just run.
He didn't even do that much to warrant getting dropped.
That's it. I mean, I would play him in front of Rice and Paqueta. Just play him in front, give him a little bit of energy. He can roam a little bit behind the front 3. It just gives, he's going to give you 110% on the pitch. He's not going to. He's not. His head won't drop when we go 1-0 down. He's that type of player. I just think we're missing his energy a little bit, and
he does slow the ball down, doesn't he? To be fair, we've said that before. He's not like perfect in those attacking positions, but yeah, I mean,
but even from a defensive point of view, he'll just give us a little bit, like in terms of his pressing.
Yeah,
and his,
definitely, I agree. Yeah,
and I just think
he does loads of invisible work.
Yeah, just put him back in there and sort of just see whether that gives us a little bit of a boost. But
he's just, when you're in trouble, he's just sort of player you want, isn't he?
Yeah.
You don't really want a Benrahma perhaps or a Lanzini or someone like that who, and definitely I think you want a Fornals sort of style player on the pitch, don't you?
Yeah, but on the whole though, like he's got to stick with that midfield. You've got to give it a few games to work, but the trouble is we're running out of time.
Yeah.
The concern I've got now is that you spend all this money on these players, then you make a change. It's like, who on earth are they going to bring in at this stage of the season? And someone that's going to have to hit the ground running. There's no like, I will give them a few games to bed in and see what works, what system works. I ain't got time for that anymore.
No, Ruben Amorim, mate. That's who we want. Sporting Lisbon manager.
Especially when we get to March and Conference League kicks off again. And then we got Thursday, Sunday schedule all of a sudden. I know it's not as regular from the group stages, but that's going to come back.
Especially when we go out in the first round.
Well, exactly, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I saw a report with on a short list of managers is Pochettino, Tomas Tuchel and Bielsa. So,
right, where did you read that report? Where was the source? I think if it was like a fan website.
No, I think it was in the Mail. I think I can't remember which site it was, but it was a national.
Yeah, but that's right.
It's like, well, right, Bielsa, it'd be a lot of fun, but is he really the guy to take us forward? I don't know, and I don't think our players are fit enough for him either. No. It's going to take a while for him to really get the players firing. Thomas Tuchel, like
that's like me and you putting a Rolls Royce and a Ferrari on our Christmas list, isn't it?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I've got a short list of cars I'd like.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're not getting a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, exactly.
And then getting a Fiesta and like, why are you wasting the ink and your time?
Yeah, and the same goes for Pochettino.
Yeah, of course it does. What a ridiculous idea that we're going to get
why on earth is either Pochettino or Tuchel are ever going to be interested in taking the West Ham job. Pochettino,
Right.
especially because of his ties with Spurs, absolutely no way does he take the West Ham job. And
Mate, he doesn't care about that. It's nothing to do with his ties with Spurs. It's to do with the fact that we're nearly
that as well.
relegation fodder, and he's loads better than that.
I don't see him going, oh yeah, I'll take the West Ham job. Yeah, that sounds like a really good project to take on. Yeah, like 100%. Like, it's just not happening. It's not happening. I can see it now. It's going to be Sean Dyche.
No, shut up. No,
it's going to be Sean Dyche. He's a free agent.
I'm never going to watch
be
West
Sean
Ham
Dyche.
again if it is.
I can see it now. You can see it coming a mile off.
What, till the end of the season?
Oh,
I don't think they'll get away with that. I don't think they'll get away.
I mean,
fans wouldn't have that.
They would
not stomach that.
I mean, it would kick off massively if they went down that route. You're right. I don't think they would get away with it. But have they ever done anything without thinking about what the consequences are going to be? I don't think so. I think they're very short-termism. And if it is until the end of the season, and they can do what they did with Moyes the first time around,
yeah, mate.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
All right, but I sort of think we're getting in that situation now anyway, aren't we? Someone at work the other day, I mean, it took no time whatsoever. Even though he hasn't even started his first day as sporting director yet, even if we get Noble in till the end of the season,
come on.
I was like, jog on. Honestly, and the amount of fans I know will be going, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Get Mark Noble in."
Not a good idea.
He's the sporting director. Like, that's his job now.
It's not a good idea.
It's not a good idea at all, and he will not want to do it. No, I just think it's ridiculous. One funny thing, Jonesy, I did mean to say, is we're chatting in the office. This same bloke actually who suggested, it'd be all right if we brought Mark Noble into the end of the season. Because first of all, James, I do think we're in that position now where we've got to think that way. We've just got to think, right, this season's a write-off. I mean, we've got the Conference League, but I mean, Premier League-wise, I think you just go, right, we just need to stay up this season now. We need to stay up, consolidate, do as well as we can. Obviously, try and finish mid-table so it doesn't look too terrible for prospective new players or owners or whatever. But you just go, right, finish mid-table, just think about this season. And then beyond that, then you sort of take stock again. But we were saying, the last however many games, Moyes, West Ham, and because of Moyes' stubbornness, must be the easiest team for the opposition, data and analysis team to prepare for. We were literally saying, when teams up and down the country whenever they have West Ham, the manager just goes into the analytics department. Obviously, normally the big old case files on how the teams play and patterns of play, set pieces, different players in different positions, different ways they can line up. The managers of all teams, when they've got West Ham the following week, must just go into the analytics office department on the Monday morning and go, lads, if you've got any annual leave days to use up, take them this week, I think, because just give us the pack. The preparation pack that you did for West Ham last time and the time before that and the time before that since David Moyes has been in there, and we'll use that because it's going to be the same players in the same formation with the same sort of style of play, and most of the players who they actually used to be quite effective playing that style have got worse, and the ones who've come in are rubbish. So you have the week off, boys, and because we've actually got a decent team, we might change something up next week, so we'll need you back for them.
I think I completely agree, but I also think it's so easy also for a new manager to come in and get this team playing. Because if you look at our squad on paper, it's very, very good. It's just David Moyes won't use the players in their quick positions, and that just makes us completely ineffective. And then obviously that affects morale, confidence, and everything else. So I think, it's easy for teams to currently prepare to play against us because it's just very obvious what we're going to do and how we're going to play and how we're going to set up. But I think it's equally as easy for a manager to come in and get this squad playing.
Yeah.
Because he's going to go, because suddenly he's got no ties to Soucek. Yeah, see him, mate. Thanks very much. But
true.
Plans. It gives it's clear that there are a few players that are a little bit unhappy about things at the moment. It gives them a little bit of a boost, and I
Yeah.
reckon a lot of those players that are unhappy or potentially unhappy are the bigger names, the players that just want to be playing better football in better teams and be playing in the top half of the Premier League table. So suddenly they get a bit of a boost.
Yeah.
It's just it's all there for a change to be made. It's got to be the right guy. And I just don't see a right guy. Unfortunately, I just don't. And you just know it's going to be a Sean Dyche into the end of the season and see what happens. And I don't know, mate, because I just in absolute no world is Pochettino or Tuchel taking this job. As much as I would love it,
no, of course not.
I would.
Let's
love
put that to bed. I don't even want to dignify it with.
Yeah, but it's not
mate.
So
stop it!
I told you
I'd like a Rolls Royce.
We need to be realistic.
Yeah,
and
honestly,
it's not going to be.
Stop saying it. You're annoying me that you keep saying it.
It's going to be Sean Dyche, or it's going to be I don't know, or it's going to be like Dean Smith or something. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. But you can see it coming a mile.
Right. You're not allowed to say anymore that you'd like Pochettino or Thomas Tuchel. You're not allowed to say it for the rest of the show. Because
I won't state
of course
the
you would.
Yeah.
No, exactly that, mate. Yeah, it's like, we all would. But let's remember, this is we are West Ham, not we are Chelsea or we are Arsenal.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which doesn't have anywhere near as good of a ring to it, by the way, as we are West Ham does. No. But yeah, just that's enough, right? You're not allowed to say that anymore because you just have to know your place. Not you particularly, just we're just not going to do that, are we? Honestly. I've just seen your tweet, by the way. Your tweet on Boxing Day. Everything about this West Ham team is so flipping boring, predictable and boring. Oh dear. Right, Jonesy, let's move on.